Missing 411 is not a formal police classification or government code. It's a term coined by David Paulides, a former police detective turned investigative researcher, to describe a chilling pattern of unexplained disappearances in national parks and remote wilderness areas. These are not ordinary missing persons cases. They are marked by a strange convergence of eerie coincidences, untraceable vanishings, and baffling recoveries, or the lack thereof. Across North America, hundreds of people have gone missing under circumstances that defy easy explanation. Often, search and rescue efforts are massive, high-tech, and immediate. Yet still, people vanish, sometimes in full view of others, sometimes forever, and in some of the most haunting instances, their bodies are later found in locations previously searched, or in places they seemingly couldn't have reached on foot. To make things even more disturbing, the National Park Service does not keep a centralized list of missing persons. Paulides himself has reported encountering bureaucratic resistance when trying to gather data, raising questions about transparency, priorities, or perhaps something more unsettling. In this exploration, we'll follow several cases that fit the missing 411 profile and investigate the peculiar patterns that emerge when nature stops making sense. Yosemite National Park is known for its sweeping granite cliffs, cascading waterfalls, and breathtaking wilderness. But in July 1981, it became the backdrop for one of the most enduring missing 411 mysteries. 14-year-old Stacey Ann Arris was on a guided horseback trip with her father and a group of other tourists. They stopped at the Sunrise High Sierra Camp, a remote yet scenic rest area along a well-traveled route. At some point, Stacey decided to walk a short distance from the group to a nearby lake with a 77-year-old man from the party. He soon grew tired and sat down to rest. Stacey continued alone, planning to take photos. She was only a short walk away, still within earshot of others. And then she vanished. Despite being in an open alpine area with little tree cover, no one saw or heard anything unusual. Search teams responded immediately. Over 9 days, helicopters scoured the area, bloodhounds were deployed, and more than 100 people searched on foot. The terrain was rugged but manageable. Yet Stacey left behind no trail, no scream, no sign. Only one object was ever recovered, the lens cap from her camera. What makes Stacey's case so chilling is its sheer improbability. This wasn't a deep forest with dense undergrowth. It was a relatively exposed landscape, and she was just minutes from camp. The suddenness of her disappearance and the complete lack of physical evidence fits the missing 411 pattern perfectly. An experienced or supervised person vanishing in plain sight in a zone that should have yielded answers. While the individual cases are eerie on their own, it's the patterns connecting them that elevate missing 411 into a phenomenon. David Paulides, through years of investigation, has compiled a set of recurring criteria that show up again and again in these mysterious disappearances. 1. Remote natural settings. Most disappearances occur in national parks, dense forests, mountainous terrain, or otherwise wild environments. These are places of beauty and solitude, but also isolation and vulnerability. 2. Canine confusion. In many cases, tracking dogs either fail to pick up a scent or behave erratically, sometimes refusing to search at all. Trained search dogs losing motivation or interest in a trail is considered highly unusual. 3. Improbable recovery locations. When remains or missing individuals are found, they are often discovered in areas already thoroughly searched, sometimes multiple times. Others are found miles away from the last known location, across rugged terrain, cliffs, rivers, or in conditions too harsh for the missing person to have survived. 4. Clothing and footwear. Oddities. Many victims are found missing shoes, pants, or jackets, even in cold weather. This has been attributed to paradoxical undressing, a behavior associated with late-stage hypothermia, but it occurs too often and in too many cases to be easily dismissed. 5. Sudden weather events. A number of disappearances are followed by immediate weather changes, storms, snowfall, or heavy rain that hinder search efforts and erase potential tracks. Whether coincidence or part of a larger unknown factor, this is a recurring complication. 6. Time-space discrepancies. Some recovered individuals, especially children, are found days later in locations they seemingly couldn't have reached alone. For example, toddlers are found across mountain ranges or 10+ miles away from where they vanished, with no explanation for how they traveled so far, so fast, without shoes or supplies. 7. Lack of official record keeping. Despite the frequency of these disappearances, the National Park Service has no unified, accessible database of missing persons. Paulides has reported difficulty obtaining even basic data, and in one case was told it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees to compile. These patterns don't point to a single explanation, but they point to something. Whether it's human error, environmental forces, or something far stranger, the consistency across these cases is what has made Missing 411 resonate so deeply with the public. On Father's Day weekend in June 1969, the Martin family was enjoying a camping trip in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. They had chosen Spence Field, a grassy, open area near the Appalachian Trail, known for its panoramic views and family-friendly hiking. Dennis Martin, a lively 6-year-old boy, was playing a game of hide-and-seek with his brother and 2 other boys while the adults looked on. Dennis darted behind a bush to hide and was never seen again. The timeline was tight. His father immediately noticed his absence and began shouting for him. Within 5 minutes, adults were fanning out across the field. Within hours, rangers were called in. A massive search and rescue operation was launched. The FBI joined in, helicopters were deployed, and bloodhounds were brought to the scene. And yet, not a single solid clue was ever found. Adding to the mystery was a chilling report from another family hiking nearby. They claimed they heard a loud scream, followed by the sight of a rough-looking man emerging from the woods, apparently carrying something over his shoulder. This lead was never verified and went largely unpursued, but it remains one of the most unsettling elements of the story. Even stranger, at one point during the search, a team of Green Berets arrived and conducted their own separate operation. Their involvement was never fully explained, and they reportedly refused to coordinate with other search parties. To this day, their presence adds another layer of intrigue. Dennis's body was never found. No clothing, no tracks, no trace. This case checks nearly every box in the Missing 411 profile: young age, sudden disappearance within view of family, failed canine tracking, immediate weather shift, a heavy downpour hit that night, and an area thoroughly searched, yet yielding nothing. It remains one of the most disturbing and well-documented vanishings in American parkland history. Theodore Ted Adkins was no ordinary hiker. A Wawabiwu veteran and an experienced outdoorsman, he knew Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas like the back of his hand. He had spent years exploring its cliffs, caves, and ridgelines. That's what made his 1946 disappearance so profoundly baffling. Ted had gone on a solo weekend trip to a familiar area of the park. He was known to be well prepared, carrying standard survival gear, maps, and a rifle. When he failed to return on the expected day, friends alerted authorities, and a search was launched. What they found was more unsettling than if they had found signs of struggle. Ted's campsite was completely intact. His tent was pitched, firewood was stacked, food was half-cooked on the stove. His rifle leaned neatly against a log. Everything suggested he had simply stepped away and never returned. Search efforts were intensive and persistent. Volunteers combed the area for days. No blood, no tracks, no indication of an animal attack or misstep. It was as though Ted had been plucked from the earth. The terrain itself was challenging but not insurmountable, especially for someone with his experience. And yet, not a single shred of clothing, equipment, or remains were ever recovered. The lack of any biological or environmental clue made this disappearance fall squarely into what Paulides would later identify as a classic missing 411 case. Though the event predates the official beginning of Paulides' research, it has since been retroactively included in discussions due to its near-perfect alignment with the profile. An expert outdoorsman vanishing from a familiar location under normal conditions, leaving behind a scene that looks like he was called away mid-thought. To this day, the Devil's Den incident remains a case with no answers, just quiet questions echoing through the Ozark wilderness. Not all missing 411 cases end in total disappearance. In some instances, victims are found, but under conditions so bizarre they raise more questions than answers. Take the case of a toddler who vanished during a family camping trip and was discovered alive 12 miles away, across rugged terrain, over mountain ridges, and through dense forest. He was found in relatively good health, with no shoes, minimal scratches, and no memory of how he got there. The child was too young to explain what had happened, and seemingly too young to have made such a journey on his own. In other cases, bodies are found in areas that were already searched, sometimes multiple times. Search and rescue teams often grid search areas meticulously using GPS tracking, canine units, and helicopters. So when a body shows up days or weeks later in a previously cleared area, often in plain sight, it challenges the very logic of search protocols. There are also survivors who are found with memory gaps or in an altered mental state. Some are discovered in remote locations they could not have knowingly navigated to. One famous case involves a man who was found disoriented in a canyon several days after disappearing from a trail many miles away, unable to recall what he experienced. These anomalies, impossible distances, time gaps, unexplained memory loss, are what set missing 411 cases apart from conventional explanations. They defy logic, resist categorization, and point towards something operating just beyond the boundary of what we can confidently explain. The appeal and the terror of the missing 411 phenomenon is that it offers no easy answers. Over time, a variety of theories have been proposed to explain these disappearances, each with its own limitations and unanswered questions. Below is a breakdown of the most prominent hypotheses, examined with both skepticism and openness. 1. Misadventure and hypothermia. The most conventional explanation. People get lost, disoriented, and panic. In cold weather, late-stage hypothermia can cause paradoxical undressing, where victims remove clothing due to a false sensation of heat. However, this theory struggles to explain cases involving children found across mountainous terrain or adults discovered in areas already searched. 2. Wildlife attacks. Predators like bears or mountain lions may attack without warning, but as Paulides has noted, these incidents often leave behind signs, blood, clothing remnants, drag marks, which are conspicuously absent in many missing 411 cases. Additionally, the lack of predation marks on found remains undermines this explanation. 3. Criminal activity. Some speculate that serial killers or illegal operations, such as hidden drug farms, may play a role. While this may explain isolated incidents, the geographic spread and logistical improbability of so many similar disappearances under tight windows of time make this unlikely as a unifying theory. 4. Supernatural or high strangeness. Among the more fringe theories, some suggest Bigfoot abductions, time slips, interdimensional portals, or even alien involvement. These ideas are generally dismissed by scientists, but they persist in online forums and documentaries due to the case's inexplicable nature. The missing 411 phenomenon has become cultural shorthand for the idea that the world still contains unexplainable mysteries. 5. Government secrecy or incompetence. A more grounded but no less troubling theory. Paulides has consistently pointed out that the National Park Service does not maintain a centralized missing persons database, and even requested hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees to produce one. Whether this stems from bureaucratic dysfunction or something more deliberate, the lack of transparency only fuels suspicion. Ultimately, no single theory explains all cases. Some may indeed be tragic accidents or mental health crises. Others remain so bizarre and unresolvable that they force us to reconsider what we think we know about nature, psychology, and the limits of official knowledge. The missing 411 cases leave behind more questions than answers. They challenge our assumptions about safety, survival, and what we think we know about the natural world. These are not just stories of people getting lost. They are stories of people vanishing in ways that seem to defy logic, tracking, and sometimes even time itself. What makes them so haunting is not just the disappearances themselves, but the silence that follows. No footprints, no witnesses, no explanations, just open-ended mysteries that resist closure. Whether you believe these events are due to human error, hidden dangers, or something truly beyond our understanding, one thing is certain: the wilderness holds secrets. So next time you hike, camp, or wander into the wild, stay aware, stay connected, and remember, nature is beautiful, but it doesn't always play by the rules we expect. Have you heard of a local disappearance that fits this profile? Do you have a theory? Share it in the comments. Because when the facts are this strange, every perspective matters.